And we are live. Dong ding. Who's there? Quiet, Steven. It's not like you haven't heard that a bazillion times before.
Yeah.
Let's check out the chat. All right, cool beans. How's it going from Las Vegas? Ree here from Tea Curious, along with Steven. And he gets to do our favorite tea. Well, his favorite tea. I like Taiwanese oolong, but Steven specifically likes Dongding oolong like a whole friggin' bunch. So I have a ton of Taiwanese oolong at home too, but a lot of it kind of tends to skew high mountain. I like all Taiwanese oolong though, so I got a mishmash. But if you look at Steven's collection, it's like so Dongding high roast, Dongding charcoal roast, light roast, old Dongding.
Aged to various
Yeah, I mean,
degrees.
it's just, which, you know, not everyone, I mean, I think there are different kinds of tea collectors. There are people who are, you know, who like to have as much variety as possible. I think I'm one of those people who just really, really likes having lots of different kinds of teas. But some people, like Steven, are people who, you know, do a little bit of exploring and then like what they like. And that's part of why I really feel that we learn better together, because everyone has a different kind of personality, of course. And, you know, it's like you can kind of take from each other and each other's preferences to kind of make our own tea practice better, I think. So again, I'm kind of more of like a collector. I tend to have the collection that I would like to dive deeper into kind of doing the same tea a little bit more, focusing a little bit more. I haven't done that very much, so I'm excited. Yeah. So from right now until around 5 o'clock, we've got 2 hours to just kind of like test things out. We'll be brewing a couple different dongdings from some of our favorite vendors with a couple different teapots just to see what we can do. I'd like to brew first. I stole this from you. Just take a picture of it for Instagram. This is the charcoal roast dongding from Floating Leaves. Do you mind if we start with this?
That's fine.
I mean, it's kind of cold here. I got my seasonal allergies, which is the first season I've ever had allergies. It's kind of odd. I didn't expect that. So whenever I am feeling a little bit under the weather, I really like to brew more warm and kind of like comforting teas. And I think dongding is one of those teas that fits the bill for me, especially when it's like a deeper roast. So if you're brewing any dongding yourself, let us know where it's from, how you're brewing it, how you like it so far. To not use a pitcher today, I think we're just gonna drink using our cups, and sometimes we use a pitcher to kind of like decant teas and stuff like that. But I think today I would like to just pour straight into the cups because we're not really testing anything. We're just kind of practicing with the tea. Okay, let's get going. All right. I've never had allergies before in my life. And so when I started, you know, getting really sniffly and kind of achy a couple weeks back, I'm like, oh my God, is something wrong with me? You know, is it the unthinkable? But it doesn't seem like it. It just seems to be just this persistent seasonal allergy. And growing up in the Philippines, we never had allergy problems. I mean, I'm sure we had lots of different problems, more difficult problems to kind of like deal with. Well, that's perfect. The Gaiwan kind of fills 2 cups perfectly. But when I moved here, I was like, why do people have seasonal? What is that? What is a seasonal allergy? Are people here just, you know, a little bit more sensitive? You know, I couldn't help but think that. Now that I have them, I've developed them. It's a drag. And so today I won't be able to smell or taste as much. So that's kind of, you know, no reason to not brew good tea even when you're feeling sniffly. We'll be able to concentrate on some other aspects maybe of the tea. And again, this is a charcoal roast dongding from Floating Leaves. That we'll just see where it goes and takes us. Okay. Let's use the entire batch. Then my favorite part of the tea prep isn't actually the pouring of the water into the gaiwan. It's this part where you put the leaves that haven't been brewed yet inside the gaiwan and smell it as the leaves are getting kind of like primed by the warmth of the gaiwan. It's like a toasted marshmallow thing going on, and I'm not a big tasting notes person, but it definitely smells really good. Okay. Steven, want to smell this?
Yes.
It's very sweet and roasty. Wow.
Lovely.
I could smell it forever and ever and ever and ever. Okay, open with a steady stream. We're using pretty hot water here. I don't tend to drop the temperature for oolong. A lot of us were taught at the very beginning to drop the temperature to oolong to try to open up a little bit better. But as time has gone on, I found that it's a little bit, you know, I like it when we use higher temperature water to brew tea. And I don't know this tea very well, so whenever I'm brewing a tea that I don't know very well, I'm going to opt to do a lighter brew on the very, very first steep, just to see what it's like, kind of get a sense of it, because you can always adjust the tea to be a little bit stronger next time. But I feel like when you're overbrewed from the beginning, it's hard to pull back from that. Harder, not impossible, but harder. Cup. Yeah, that's pretty perfect actually. Oh, it's so hard to focus on tea when your face is so itchy. Ugh. Here you go, Steven. So first sip of this. The one downside about brewing directly from the gaiwan to the cups, it's pretty hot when you receive it. So I might, I don't know, maybe change to use a pitcher. It's bearable, actually. Maybe if I pour a little bit higher, I can get it to drop temperature a little bit more. Ooh, I'm going to try leaving the lid on the gaiwan because 2 days ago we had a Discord hangout where we figured out that could be true that if you leave the lid off, the theory is that by leaving the lid off, you're not steaming the leaves inside, especially when they're really hot. But so far, we've run 2 experiments on it, and it seems like it doesn't really make a difference. It doesn't steam the tea leaves. It doesn't overcook them. We've done this with shopuer and with green oolong. So if green oolong is okay with the lid on, I think a dongding like this will be just fine. And the plus side of having the lid on seems like, you know, the aromatics will stay within the tea. It's going to keep a little bit warmer, a little bit more consistent in temperature. I think what's happening is that when you leave the lid off, you're doing more temperature cycling. So, and tendencies are the more consistent you are with the brewing of the tea, the better. So I think I'm going to try living up to what our experiment results were and making it happen. It's really odd though, having it with a lid on. I'm like, I seem like fiddling. Like my hands feel, you know, sticky. It's almost like I really like the process of just removing the lid and set it to the side. It's almost like a process thing. And oh my goodness, don't watch me when I'm right in front of you, Steven. Yeah. See, I'm like, oh my god, the sound of my own voice coming through your speakers. I cannot. I just can't. So first steep of floating leaves is charcoal roast dongding, which is a really dope tea. It smelled really, really good. I can still taste it through, you know, the stuffiness. Soft and sweet and really, really toasty, almost like, again, the toasted marshmallow thing I can't get get out of my head. I'm not really, I don't do a lot of tasting notes, but really warm, really nice. And as we go through this, Dongding practice, let us know what you're brewing, how it's going, even if it's not a Dongding necessarily. I think if it's just a Taiwanese oolong or even a roasted Chinese oolong, probably could be good. Trade notes and stuff. On the range of this Dongding from, lightest to darkest, I feel like this is a pretty mid-range one. It's not super, super dark. The leaves still have some green to them. See, I can't stop fiddling with a friggin' gaiwan. I need to focus. I just can't. I just can't leave it alone. Okay. That's why it's easier for me to do the experiments, because there's so many things going on. So when I'm just stuck with a gaiwan and 2 cups, it's like, okay, what we're doing. It's really warm. Using what Shoan told us, who's, this is her Dongding, so she chose it for a reason. It's definitely a tea that does a lot. Flavor-wise, it's extremely sweet and compelling. I love the taste, but it's very relaxing. I'd say it's a good tea. And I feel like when you have a good tea, I'd like to maybe change this a little bit. 2 days ago, we did that practice with a Korean green tea that was very challenging, but sometimes, it's possible that there is a tea that you find that takes a little bit time to open up to you and reveal its secrets. But this is really dope. I really, really like it. And I think this is one of these teas. It just tastes so good from the very beginning. All right, I think I can push it a little bit harder. So from the first steep, like I said, I tend to like to do a shorter first steep to see what it's doing, to know what it can handle. I don't want to overbrew in the first steep. You can always adjust to brew harder. I find that if you overbrew in the first steep, there's a kind of like weird astringency or sourness that kind of persists through in the session. But it can handle. So I think second steep, I'm going to try to brew it a little bit harder. And then I'm going to reboil the water. And then what our friend Severino reminded me about, smell the empty cup. It still smells like marshmallows. There's like a marshmallow thing going on. Like toasted marshmallows. I think what's happening is that caramelization from the roast it's very just whoever did it is just a badass. So now it just tastes like sugar and toastiness and softness in the cup, which if you put sugar, toastiness, and softness together, it's toasted marshmallows. A little bit of fire, and a little bit of nostalgia. So many things going on. It's nutty, toasty, sweet, nostalgic, warm, a little bit fiery, toasted marshmallows. Really, really tasty. I haven't used this gaiwan in a long time. Oof, a little bit too much. It's okay. But I really love the shape of these kinds of gaiwans. I use these for our Kung Fu brewing classes. I let everyone take a gaiwan and handle it for the first time. And it's critical that I give them a gaiwan that's not going to kill them from the very beginning. This one's definitely one of those that works really well. If you guys have a gaiwan, I wonder what your preferred shape is, but this one is blown out. This one's my preferred shape with the lip kind of like coming out, then coming back in. Gives you just a lot of space away from the body of the gaiwan that isn't so hot. Ooh, there we go again. Keep it, Ree. Jeez. The force of 10 years of habit. Jeez. You go.
So we call it tea practice.
I know, right? Okay, so this color is a little bit darker than the first steep. The leaves have been opening up a little bit. It smells a little bit more toasty on the wet leaves. I don't know how to read the wet leaves very well, to be honest. Okay, so this steep kind of stepped away from the whole sugary kind of toasted marshmallow and more into the roasty side of things. It's extremely warm. Really, really relaxing. I'm almost like, man, is it a good idea to drink one of Shoan's really, really good dongdings to start with? I might just get too relaxed and not be able to brew anything else. But I like that we started with something good. Although in theory, there's this, if you're curating a menu ever or doing a tasting with friends, there's a theory that you should probably start with a good tea. Of course, invite people in with something good that you can show your appreciation to them for being there with you. But it's better to ramp up a little bit and then save the best tea for last, because sometimes that tea is so freaking delicious it just upsets the whole show. You don't want to go downhill from here, you want to ramp up. And then that tea that you pour at the very end, especially if it has like a nice aftertaste, it has, what you call in the whole like the echoing goodness of that tea. When they leave and say goodbye to you, they're like, man, like the last tea was so good. It's like a set list. Not a musician, Steven is, but when you arrange a set list, I imagine you want to put your impactful songs at the very end. Like imagine Michael Jackson always had "Heal the World" at the end of the concert or whatever. It's not gonna be Billie Jean, right? Unless they made like a really like long and drawn out Billie Jean at the end. It's not gonna be Thriller. Thriller is like the upbeat kind of song, right? It's probably "Heal the World." Maybe "Man in the Mirror," kind of like introspective, really good song that everyone likes. So something like that. So I'm almost a little nervous that this tea is a little bit too good to be starting with. But it's okay. Yeah, I feel like might have brewed it a little bit too strong for my personal taste. Maybe just a tiny bit too roasty. I think I want to drop it a little bit, pull it back. But it's not bad. It's okay. Still extremely warm, relaxing. Good stuff. Nice. Keyword here is warm. Teacup. How's it going, Steven? Good so far?
Good stuff.
Yeah. Wow, nice aftertaste too. Ooh, that's kicking in just now. All like fruity and wow, it's like we went from marshmallows to fruit. Like dried mango thing going on. Very fruity. It's testing out different pour here, going round and round. I wonder if I just infuse it a little bit too hard the second time. There wasn't anything unpleasant with the second steep. I just wanted, I'm a sweet tooth. I like my tea to taste kind of sweet. I want to pull sweeter flavors, even if it's at the expense of being a little bit on the light side. I prefer my tea to be that way, but not too light. I want there to be some body to it, but I do tend to err on the side of being a little bit lighter, just for my personal preference. And then brewing for Steven here, he doesn't mind that, so it's okay. If I'm brewing with like my party hard, tea people, I'm gonna brew harder. That's fine, but for us, it's okay. So we'll do a much shorter steep on this one, just to see if I can dial it back. Steep number 3 of Floating Leaves' charcoal roast dongding. Do you know which year this is, Steven? Feels like it's relatively recent.
2019.
2019. Okay. Because we still
probably 2018 harvest, 2018 roast.
Okay. There's still some roastiness to it, but it's not excessively roasty. Okay. Here you go.
Thanks.
Still has a nice color. Ooh.
Hot.
Habit. The third time now. It's okay. It is what it is. Of course, like I can't expect myself to just play it perfectly after 10 years of doing the same thing. 10 years? No, it's more like 8 years with the Gaiwan. I think I got my first Gaiwan in 2011, 2012. So like 8 to 9 years. So
What
not
were you
quite
doing
10.
for 2 years?
What was I doing for 2 years? That's
Perfect team makers. that you
No,
sit on
yeah,
top of the cup.
a little bit over 2 years. Like 2008 was when, and many people have heard this story. My sister gifted me a tin of Tivana white Ayurvedic chai. It's like the pineapple, coconut, like peppercorn, like pink peppercorn. It looked like a Mardi Gras party, you know, in there. It's supposed to be a white tea, but if I remember correctly, I don't remember any white tea leaves that I would recognize in that batch. Um, but yeah, it was just so sexy, and I got really into Tivana. So I was using a lot of Tivana stuff for sure. Tivana teapots, Tivana perfect tea makers, those little things that you kind of put in the mug. We're like, oh my god, it's amazing. And I still really like them. I like to use them for herbal teas, which tend to be a little bit more tricky to kind of brew in a gaiwan. And they look really pretty in the infusers, the perfect infuser anyway. So we actually still have a couple of those that I will use, especially for people who are just beginning to practice tea. Especially people who are like herbal teas and medicinal teas, just that visual impact of the perfect tea maker with the swirly herbs and stuff like that is just really, really pretty. And I think well suited. So yeah, so 3 years of that, 3 years of the teapot, and then I think I stumbled on like the whole Gaiwan shebang on Adagio's tea chat, and I'm like, what's this thing that they're using? Gaiwan, you know? And so I ordered one from, I think I ordered one from some Canadian Chinese tea company. I forget what it was. I don't think they're active anymore, but I got my very first Gaiwan from there. It was just before Gaiwan and after Gaiwan. Once you get a Gaiwan, like just the universe explodes for tea. And I loved it. Unfortunately, I broke it. My nephew had pulled like the cord of my laptop as I was having tea and dragged the Gaiwan with him, and it shattered. So I'm kind of sad. I still have the body of it. I wish I kept the lid because then Steven could repair it, but it's okay. It was a really, really good
8 years
Gaiwan.
later.
And I wonder if, you know, you kind of get lucky with your first Gaiwan. I did my research. I was like, I need to find the one that has like the shape and it's gotta be good. If I get the one that's not, I mean, this is all in theory from the forums, you know, people are saying, oh, you need to get a Gaiwan that has a good lip and not too tall, not too short, not too big. So I did. And luckily I picked a really good one. And yeah, just instant love with the Gaiwan. But I've never, you only have one time to have a first time Gaiwan experience, right? I wonder if I'd started with something a little bit less convenient and effortless, if I would love the Gaiwan so much. Because I would still say, even with our fancy Kyushu, fancy wood-fired Gaiwan, fancy teapots, I mean, we're kind of rolling a little bit in like the teaware, but basic white Gaiwan is just dope. Like really good. Which is why I started with it today. I'm like, what teapot should we use? I'm like, oh, always going to start with a Gaiwan that I know really well. Okay, so I'm happy with how the steep came out. We pulled back a little bit from the kind of a little bit overly roasty thing going on. A little bit more like sweet, fruity. I'm not sure if it's the tea opening up a little bit or me and my adjustment, but whatever I did, it seemed like it went together what I wanted to do. So that's good. Yeah, that's a steep that I like. I like that steep a lot. The second steep, I think I got a little bit too excited about how because the first steep I felt the tea could really handle the hot water. The second steep I maybe pushed it a little bit too much. brought out too much of the roastiness. But here, pulling back, we got more of that flowery, kind of fruity, but also toasty, well-rounded sweetness going. And that's the kind of tea that I like, for sure. Tasty. Good stuff. I think that's my favorite steep so far. Well, yeah. Objectively, it's the best steep. I really like the first steep of a Taiwan oolong with all the sugar. It's just like sugar, right? Like what's happening is that on the first steep, all of the sugar that's on the surface of the leaves kind of it just lifts. And it's on the surface of the leaf because when they roll the tea, all that carbohydrate kind of just comes to the surface. And that's what helps oolong get sticky enough to roll into a ball. And so when, as much as humanly possible, I don't rinse my tea, because when you're rinsing your tea, that very first steep has all those really sweet components that you kind of might lose, if you toss out the rinse. So it's a little bit confounding. Have you cut back? Okay. So I'm going to err on the side of a little bit lighter. I think I put quite a lot of leaf, so it's a little bit faster than I usually brew my tea. I don't know how much leaf that was. Maybe a good 5 grams, I would say. I used to weigh all my tea leaves, but unless I'm doing an experiment, I don't want to use too much equipment. Color is lighter than the other infusions. Might be a little bit light. Stay. No, don't crack it. Just stay. There we go. You gotta see them. Infusion number 4 of floating leaves is charcoal roast dongding. Ooh, it went toasty again. Wow, interesting. Yeah. Wow. I feel like even if it went toasty, it still has a lot of that complexity, and I just feel like, if we're doing a graph of going into the tea, we've just been descending slowly, but here I'm just like, oh, okay, we're in the valley of the tea now. This is tea world. Whew. Wow. Like the tea just you're here. Nice to see you. Let's go. Yeah, this is the steep. I don't know what about it. This is what, the 4th steep now? I don't even know. Yeah, it's the 4th steep. The first one's the toasted marshmallow one. The second one is a little bit too dark, but not bad. I'm just being picky. Third one's really complex. This one's let's go down to the underworld of Dongding. Wow. It almost feels like a physical drop down. Not a drop I don't feel happy, but getting pulled into the whatever this tea wants us to do. Which is why I think it's good to do some focused tea sessions like this too. So you can figure out what exactly the tea is wanting, what the tea can explore together with you. If that's, yeah, it's just leaves, but man, you're really digging in. We got a shovel now. Incredibly sweet, fruity, flowery. Wow, it's just so much going on. It's pretty incredible. Texture is good too. It's got a soft, really easy drinking texture. I know some people like to brew roasted oolong, so it's got a lot of grit to it, but I tend to kind of like this kind of soft, pillowy with some weight, like a weighted blanket. Still got a little silkiness to it. That's how I like oolong. And the thing is, when you brew hard, it is easier to get kind of the nuances of the tea And I like to brew hard when I want to test the tea to see just how good the quality of the tea is. Usually, the better the tea, the more pleasant it will be, even if you boil the fuck out of it. But honestly, when I'm just brewing for myself, if I can actually sit down and have a session like this, I will tend to brew quite light. And the benefit there is you get more steeps. So this is steep 4. I wish there was a way that we could count steeps easily. My friend Virginia or Cinnabar from Phoenix Tea Shop has like a little abacus thing she has on her tea table where, you know, as you go through the steeps, you can just move the bead from one side to the other. I kind of want to do that now that I can't do the lid thing. It's like an extra movement that I can add to the session. Feels really good. Just sailing. Just cruising. Good stuff. Good stuff. So we are 34 minutes in now, and we are 4 steeps in. So pretty steady pace with the infusions. Not sure if some of you are chuggers, but I'm definitely a sipper. When I'm talking too much, I can definitely chug tea, but when we have, you know, a more like slow down focus session like this, I tend to be pretty slow when I drink tea. About this pace or even slower, you know, if we weren't doing this live. But curious to see at which point, at this point, 30 minutes into our broadcast, where most people would be with their steeps just by themselves. Especially since Stephen is helping me indeed with, you know, 2 cups and stuff like that. If I'm alone, I usually have a larger teacup that I use. Probably my favorite one is, I call these moon cups because they're like round like the moon. And so like really, really pretty, really nice shape. Amazingly tasting for tea. These are from Camellia sinensis from like 8 years ago. Like that's OG. I wonder if they still have those because those are amazing. I have 2 of them, but yeah, these are amazing. And they're like a Gaiwan size. I think they're like 100 ml. I don't think you ever used these, Stephen. They're extremely pleasant to drink out of. I kind of want to, I'd like to test it out with you. I'll focus. Not right now. Later, we'll use those. See, I'm so like, let's try things. He's like, come on, Ree, you have 2 cups here. They're perfectly fine. They're really fancy cups, you know. What do you want to do? So 5th infusion. So much love for this Gaiwan. It's so versatile. The reason why I haven't used this Gaiwan as much as I'd like to is it reminds me of another Gaiwan that was my favorite Gaiwan that I also broke, that I bought for my birthday like 5 years ago. It's just a little bit too similar that I'm like, it's close, but it's not quite it. But I don't know. It feels just it feels more or less the same way as that one did. So I might have to keep using it more than just saving it for workshops. It's very pleasant to use, like, for sure. You know, I can like tip it all the way upside down and like get some like extra drops out of it, you know? And it's completely and totally comfortable. The leaves opening up now. I use an excuse to look at the leaves because I really want to put the lid out, but I won't. I'll remember. I feel like I am brewing this tea better than I would be if I had the lid off. It's just keeping together a little bit better. Okay, steep number 5. Maybe I spoke too long, too soon. Yeah, either the tea is being really friendly to me or I'm brewing pretty okay today. This is another like pull you in steep. I feel we're just getting deeper and deeper and deeper into this tea, and it's extremely warm without getting sweaty. I tend to run very cold, but this tea is very warming, very soothing. You can feel the tea go all the way down to your stomach, warm it and stuff like that. Just really nice tea. It's both a thought-provoking tea and also a kind of like heartwarming tea. Just feel like it's easy to think of teas like people. If you just think of them as being like, this is Qingxin Oolong at 300 meters elevation, like it's difficult to kind of understand what the tea is doing because most of us are not plant biologists, nor are we tea makers, nor are we, like people who process and grow tea. So I think a really nice shortcut, is to think about tea processing like cooking. You can use the same ingredient and then process it many different ways in order to get different results. So if you think about white tea, it's just processed or cooked a little bit different from green tea. And then once you get to kind of explore teas, it's a little bit weird because you're kind of like anthropomorphizing, making them human. You're making the tea human, but you kind of assign like personalities to the tea, like, oh, that one's like really difficult to work with, or that one's really friendly, or that one's more quote unquote feminine, quote unquote masculine. The sound of not being PC enough. I mean, of course, it's not like I'm saying that tea's a woman, right? It's just there's some qualities that are seen to be, whether they're true or not, traditionally more feminine, like being soft and kind of flowery. But as long as you're willing to excuse you know, the shortcut in talking about it, it does help us talk a little bit more easy about tea than just saying like this Qingxin oolong is astringent and dry and it's got notes of insert 5 different tasting notes here. And I like to do tasting notes and dig into the objective qualities of the tea like that. But sometimes it's easy to be like, oh yeah, you'll really like this oolong. It's really friendly and easy brewing. It's like your best friend. It's always going to be there for you. Um, and there are certainly teas that are like that. I mean, have you guys experienced this where some teas are just easier to friggin' brew than others? Like some teas you're just like boiling water from the cafeteria and I'm busy and whatever. And it's just like, I got you, dude. I got you. And they're just always solid. Wild Mountain White from Tea and Whisk from 2012, this white tea cake. I just always refer to that tea as being that like gotcha because it's so amazingly good. It's such a high quality tea, incredible friggin' tea, but it doesn't take a lot of like shenanigans to brew it or work with it. It's just there. So that tea is good, but it's super consistent, super easy to brew. And then there are some teas, like we tried a really high grade Tieguanyin. Um, I need to reserve my judgment on it first because it's very confusing before I tell you what the company is. But it's a very, very, very high grade Tieguanyin, at least from what it's been advertised. And we've shifted from like being totally in love with it and like, oh my god, this is mind blowing, to like this makes me depressed because it's so terrible. It feels horrible,
It goes
like
back and forth though.
yeah,
Sometimes it is really good.
yeah, sometimes it's up and down. So it's not even like we can quantify how that, oh, if we're focusing and brewing it right, it tastes good. Sometimes the same person brewing that same tea under pretty similar circumstances, and it's not like, when Steven's been the one to make it most of the time, this Chigwanya we're talking about. It's not like I remember it being bad whenever you're in a bad mood or anything,
Right.
or like not paying
Well,
attention, you
not
forget
being a
about
bad
it,
mood, but,
right?
like even just the people in the room.
Right. It just we don't get it. So we know it's capable of like incredible things, but it's almost like you gotta like hurt it a little bit. Like, go this way, please, like, go. Or I don't know. It's just temperamental, and maybe maybe I'm lazy. I like teas that are a little bit more like, here you go, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Okay. See, this tea is so satisfying that I can keep blabbing about other things, even if I'm really just nursing a tiny, like 30 ml, 50 ml cup. This is like the fifth steep now, right? Fifth steep?
I've lost
I
track.
think it's the fifth steep. Incredibly good. Wow, so good. Really giving. This is like almost everything you want in a tea is in there. Like sweet, toasty, warm, really rich, not too rich, but rich, thick, silky, flowery, fruity, nutty, toasty. It just got everything. I think that's why Dongding is so appealing. It just can do like a really good one can do everything. Like a high mountain oolong, it can do maybe better at being super buttery and delicate and flowery, but it can't go all the way to being nutty unless it's roasted. Dongding is just in that like really special like category. We're just doing everything, you know. And there's like a savory quality to it too, because it's like from what I've experienced, these charcoal roasts, right? These charcoal roasts tend to be a little bit more savory and almost like a little salty in the flavor than like an electric roast. And a lot of the teas that you see from Taiwan, I would say most of them are not charcoal roasted. Most of them are electric roasted, where it's not a bad thing to electric roast. They have like these big kind of like shelves. They almost look like refrigerators. You open them and then you load the teas in a tray, or they have these big like basket. They almost look like giant steamer baskets. And then underneath there's an electric component that heats up tea. And yeah, most of the stuff in Taiwan is done that way because charcoal is very labor intensive and also not as easy to do consistently. But in comparison, I think a lot more of the Chinese oolongs will tend to be charcoal roasted. Not all of them by any means. It's impossible for everyone to have artisanal grade tea. It doesn't happen, right? But when you're dealing with really high quality like we rock oolong, like we yancha, or high quality like anshi tieguanyin that's been roasted, it's a little bit more likely to be roasted charcoal way, meaning using wood where they like make a pit and then they literally have the charcoal there and then they lift the tea up above the charcoal like an outdoor grill. Some of you all have charcoal because you're fancy, then some of us like me we use like an electric heater. The taste is different though. The taste is different, and I do like the taste of charcoal roasted tea, so I'm really digging. It just adds a kind of extra dimension, I think. Tasty. I let that wait too long for me. It's blabbing too much. Got a little bit. Someone's like, Ree, shut up, bro tea. It's okay. Infusion number 6, I believe. Been getting okay results from pouring it back and forth, so keep doing that. Wow, the aftertaste is gorgeous from the previous infusion. Really, really good and persistent. It's mostly on the palate though. It's not got a lot of like hoyin, which is supposed to be like the cooling sensation in the throat that persists and stuff. It's more on like the palate. And I'm not an expert on like all these different like the Chinese aesthetics of Hoyin and Huigan and Yanyun for Chinese Hui Yancha. Like all these things, they honestly confuse me too. Like what's Huigan? Like what's aftertaste and what's like the throat thing and what's what is I don't know where one begins and one ends. But whatever this is, it's got more I think sweetness on the palate, which I think is Huigan. Salivation going on, and when it's a weird way to say it. I wish that English had a better way of talking about this, but when you have a tea that makes you salivate, it kind of helps make that fruity sweet aftertaste come out in the mouth, because if your mouth dry, you're not going to taste that. That's why you won't get, any aftertaste from like a typical like English tea bag brewed tea. It's gonna be very punchy on the flavor, but it's kind of drying, so you're not gonna get much aftertaste lingering in the mouth. It's all about that upfront pow of maltiness. Okay. Infusion number 6. Ooh, here we go again, doing the habit stay. Infusion number 6. And I reboiled the water, so this one's going to be a little bit hotter. Steven just grimaced.
It was hotter.
I mean, that's on you, dude. Okay, I feel bad, but
It's okay.
you should have been paying attention. Wow, even for being so hot, there's something about like a really fast hot steep that brings out more of a sweetness again. Really, really tasty. I love these kinds of infusions that are like a little bit light, but sweet. Really compelling. By compelling, I mean like I like it. It's very likable. Yeah, when I drink oolong like this around like the 6th, 7th, like when it's about to taper out, I get these sweet, sweet, sweet steeps as the flavor is about to thin out that remind me a lot of tapioca. But whenever I say tapioca, people are like, I don't see it. I mean, I can say nutty, I can say fruity. People can kind of, they can relate. But I think tapioca is maybe a little bit too specific. That's the kind of plus and the minus of flavor notes is that because we grow up with the flavors we're surrounded by, everyone has a different kind of like perception of what we're tasting. And if you're gonna say cumin, when people are like nuts of cumin, I'm like, I don't know what cumin tastes like. When people say notes of dillweed, I'm like, we don't grow dillweed in the Philippines. And I grew up with a lot of like Chinese, Japanese, and a bit of American food, but we weren't using dillweed. Y'all fancy, but so dillweed. What's another one I don't know? So dillweed, cumin, allspice. I don't know what allspice tastes like. I don't know what like calendula flowers. I see that a lot. Honeysuckle. Apparently, honeysuckles are very strongly southern tasting note. I find people who grew up in the American South are like, oh, honeysuckle used to bloom in my neighborhood. It's unmistakable. We used to eat the flowers. And I wish I knew what that tasted like because when they say honeysuckle, I'm like, I'm drawing a blank. So when I say tapioca, I can't blame you if you didn't grow up with tapioca, drawing a blank too. It's kind of like that sweet, chewy component of boba. I get that when these kind of thin infusions at the later stage. So I think this is infusion number 6 of this dongding. Really hot water, pulling a lot of sweetness out pretty fast. So light, soft, sweet with a lot of depth because it's still dongding. You know what I mean? So super good. Hey, for someone whose tongue got burned, you finished that quickly.
Burn my tongue.
Okay. Man, Xiaowen's just Queen of Dongding. We should just build a throne up there for her and sit her down. She would hate that though. And also kind of enjoy it, I bet. It's just in the ironic kind of like, what am I doing here? kind of way. And yeah, a lot of my focus in tea lately has been inspired by both Xiaowen and Noah. After a couple of like really, really incredible, I would say life-changing tea sessions, with them. And yeah, ever since then, I'm like, wow, I'm a believer that tea can be just, whew, yeah. So her tea is very her tea is very, it's very fill in the blank. They're just next level. Adrian Luna, good morning from your nap. I would have liked to. It's been kind of stuffy and my mind is awake, but my body is not. So I'm glad that we did a little more like chill tea session today. We've been just following through this 2018-ish, 2019, we're not sure which year it is, a charcoal roast dongding from Floating Leaves.
It's an unopened bag, so.
Yeah, so and if you and anyone else who is joining us, even after the stream replay, let us know if you did pick up some dongding to practice with us. We've been at a steady kind of slow pace, which is nice. I'm usually like half flinging my kettle across the room and trying to get the experiment done, but it's nice to have these kind of like focused tea sessions sometimes. Let us know what you are drinking, practicing with. Okay, good steep, but I think I want to go harder again. I think this tea still has some life to give. So we'll do the 7th infusion of this dongding. Man, if I wasn't so stuffed up, I wonder how delicious this tea would be. I'm just all like, supposedly pollen count's really high in Vegas right now. And I guess there's fewer people outside to soak up the pollen for me. So, like all the people on the strip who would usually be walking around inhaling that pollen for me are just gone. And so if you just step outside for a couple minutes, all the pollen's still there. Maybe that's why. I'm not sure. But that's okay. That means we can focus a little bit more on other things, like how tasty this tea is, even without being able to smell entirely. Good stuff. Ooh, okay, now that was the first bit of almost like Hoyin, the throat aftertaste that I got from this tea here. It's starting now. 7 steeps in, or 6 steeps in. This is the 7th steep that we're waiting on right now. I'm pretty impressed that it only came up this far in. I honestly, I don't brew teas all the way through to 7 steeps Gong Fu style much these days. I tend, like to test and taste a lot of different teas or bowl brew. If I am going to sit with the tea, we're often bowl brewing. So it's been quite a while since, I've been doing a lot of kind of focused long sessions like this. These were like my bread and butter when I first started doing tea. Following a tea through to like 15, 20 steeps, So I feel like my tea practice goes up and down in waves and different phases. I go through phases. Like I went through a bowl brewing phase. I have a feeling I might be going out of that for just a tiny bit. I'm probably going to shift back in. And the good thing about the phases is that I find that even if I have a phase of doing something a certain way with tea, even if I move on to something else, I will keep that thing with me as part of like the repertoire. So remember the whole like whisking matcha with different things, like different teas phase? I haven't done that in a while, but I know it's there. So if I want to do it again, it's just a couple boiling water, whisk, prep away. It's part of the toolbox already. So I'm very comfortable during these long kind of focused tea sessions. Yeah. Wow, the tea is just rewarding me today. It's just exactly what I want it to be. It's so tasty. I'm like pleasantly surprised. You might think I have a lot of confidence in myself brewing, but it's like I know what I'm doing, but also no kind of confidence. The more you know about tea, almost it's like, man, the more or less, the less that I know, and it's like, wow. No matter how prepared you can be, sometimes you don't know if a tea is going to challenge you in a certain way. But this tea is being really, really, really giving, and almost every steep, I'd say every single steep, is just what I want it to be. So really happy about that. Wow. Super rewarding. Wow. Good stuff. You can feel the tea go down, you know, it's nice and warm in the belly. I'm not an expert on this, but you'll hear us talking about it a little bit on, you know, especially our more focused tea sessions here at Tea Curious, and then also in the Discord hangouts where we, you know, are a little bit more likely to dig into like esoteric things, dig really, really deep. But if you've listened to like Floating Leaves' podcast and other people too in the tea community, she's not the only one who talks about this. So don't think it's just like this, you know, woo thing, right? That's how I've kind of come to like understand tea energy. If that guy and that girl and that lady and that person in that group who don't even know each other and don't talk to each other all talk about this whole tea energy thing, there must be something to it. And yeah, I do, you know, I do ascribe to tea energy, cha chi, or whatever. What causes it? I don't know. I suspect there might be some kind of like scientific explanation for it that we don't understand yet. But until that time, I'm okay calling it tea energy. That's fine. And it's like, does it make you feel happy, sad, relaxed? You know, what kind of tea is it? And how does it go through your body? I mean, energy is not just such a big subject. So it's a good thing I said I'm not an expert on it. But yeah, just feel where the tea goes. I can feel it go down to my stomach. It's really warm. I can feel it in my arms. It's really warm. I just feel it all over. It's like a warm shower, which is saying a lot because I just took a warm shower. And as someone who runs really cold, I have like infamously cold hands during elementary school. Growing up, I would like sneak up behind my classmates and like grip them by the back of their necks. I was such a horrible kid. Oh my god, a terrible person. And they were like, "Oh my god." I just run really cold. So this kind of tea is just really, really I like the warmth of this tea. It's just doing a lot for me in many different ways. Taste, aroma, texture, feeling, how rewarding it is, how good it smells, the ease of brewing. It's just got everything. And would this be the same session another day? No. As many of you who, you know, do these practice brewing tea, sometimes you just don't get that same flavor note or the same performance from the same tea, even if you know the tea pretty well. Different days, different performances, you know? Okay. So I'm working on the 7th infusion in my cup. This is going to be the 8th infusion of the Stongding. I'm going to try to see where it goes, like how far we can push it. I'm just curious to see how much Delphine, our friend from Discord, calls it generosity. I like that word for how long a tea can last being brewed over and over. I like to use the word endurance, but it's almost like it's working really hard. Generosity is another way of looking at it. How much generosity do the leaves have? How much endurance? How much stamina? I like to use the word stamina too. All the same thing. How long? How many sessions? Or I mean, how many infusions can you get from the tea? Not just, you know, test it out a couple different times because sometimes your parameters will cause the tea not to perform as well. But here, you know, it's going pretty well today. Tasty stuff. And see, this is why I like to practice with other people too, because unfortunately, Stephen and I like the same kinds of teas, and we tend to like to brew them the same way. But not everyone will react the same way to the same tea. Like, I'm sure some people will be like, that's too light, or that's too dark, or that's boring, or it's too hot, it's too warm, I don't know. And while I can disagree on like a personal level about what they're feeling, because I feel something different, I think it's a fair assessment because people have different experiences. So if you're at the tea table, you're kind of that person who's responsible for their experience. So even if you're like, son, screw you, like this starting is amazing. Go home. Like it's still on you to adjust for that. Because people really do experience different things. That's why I was talking to Marco from Entertainer about how, you know, he's the resident puer guy in Italy. I'm sure there are many, but from what I know, Marco's the one in my head, in my heart. Marco, you're great. So he's into pu'er, and so he's just going hard on pu'er all day. But I heard he told me that if you drink dansong or a certain oolong or even white tea, it can hit him a lot harder than a pu'er can. And I've seen this from my other pu'er drinking like fanatic friends, where they can drink like really intense pu'er, uh, brew it really hard, brew it really late at night, no problem. And then we brew like a really, I mean, to me, like innocuous oolong, and then they go like, they go to the next galaxy. I'm like, oh, come on, guys, are you serious? How do you do 15 steeps of a Jingmai pu'er and then one steep of a Taiwanese High Mountain? You're La La Land? Where'd you go? Because I think, I would say a majority of people would find pu'er to be a little bit more powerful or intense than oolong, but it just goes to show everyone's different. And there seems to be some consistency in that. I've met tea friends who I know no matter what tea we're drinking, they will have a pretty similar experience to mine. And so whenever we're brewing a tea and I feel really like, whoa, this tea is intense, I immediately look at them to be like, hey, dude, you feel that too? It's just so consistent. And by the time I look at them, they're already like passed out. So it's interesting. It's really interesting. Luckily, it's just me and Steven today drinking this tea, so I can brew it the way I like, and know it's probably going to be what Steven likes. Would you have brewed this around the same way, you think, so far?
Mm-hmm.
Should I ask you this question after the session? After the, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Okay. You still brew differently than I do, though.
Yes.
So.
I'd use a pot for this.
There you go. Yeah.
Just as my first choice.
Yeah, that's where we differ. He would use a pot as his first choice, almost always, I would say. I would use a gaiwan as my first choice, more or less.
This has probably had more charcoal dongding through it than any other pot in the world.
This is not in the world.
Her pot, her shop, her tea.
That's true. It's probably in the top.
Day.
It's in the top 1%. That's for sure.
Yeah.
But what is a pot in the person who roasts dongding?
That's true.
He probably has a pot there that's like in the same neighborhood as this pot. So this is Steven's favorite pot. It's a snow pot from Floating Leaves. I don't know how this kid got it from them, but he did. So it's been through a lot of charcoal dongding. And so when you brew charcoal dongding in it, and by you I mean Steven, not me, it comes out really, really, really well, both because of the material and I guess, I don't know, maybe the pot's just used to it, It's almost like if any of you cook or bake, there's just certain pieces of equipment that seem to go well with certain things, and you can quantify them in a lab or just accept that they're just like, that's my egg pan and that's my bacon pan, and Steven asked me, do you want to start with this? I'm like, I'm not as familiar with it. This is your pot that you use a lot. We do like use each other's teapots and teaware for sure, but I didn't want to start with a pot I wasn't as familiar with as a gaiwan. It's my comfort place, So, yeah. Adrian's question, I've heard of the term tea drunk. What would you define that? Because I'm not sure if I've ever been tea drunk. Yeah, the tea drunk's a big topic. I think a lot of people here in the West use the word tea drunk to mean any kind of like tea high, tea energy. It's like you drink a tea and you get loopy, or you get really relaxed, you get really talkative, or it depends on the person. Just like as people react differently when they drink alcohol, you got your laughy people, you got your kind of touchy-feely people, you got your angry drunk people. The same goes with tea. And it also depends on what tea you're drinking and brewing, and even the people around you, and what combinations of teas. So if you just think about it in the alcohol sense, it's a little bit easier to understand tea drunk. Depends on the tea, depends on the person, depends on the environment. Because if your friend Miranda's over there and she's like chugging vodka after she had like a shot of tequila and it's Friday night on spring break, you know where that's going. But if that same person is at home, like sipping a whiskey that someone gifted to her for her graduation or whatever, that's like an old, what do you call like fancy whiskey? Like a single malt, I think is what they're called. They're gonna get a different kind of drunk, but they're still drunk, right? And then there's good drunk where like you call up Miranda, you're like, hey dude, where were you last night? And bad and good drunk. And a good drunk would be like, it's really lovely and relaxing and stuff. But not all tea seems to cause tea drunk. Tendencies are the more potent the tea is, like more intense, the quote unquote higher quality. But just like liquor, you can also get some really crappy teas that will do the job, but the high is not as clean. You're making me talk about this stuff. But that's what I've seen, and some people just don't get tea drunk. We have some friends that will drink tea with us for 6 hours and everyone's just rolling, in a good way, usually. And they're just nothing. But I also have friends who believe they could never feel tea drunk, for good reason. They've just never felt it before. It just never happened to them before. And then suddenly they're like, yeah, I felt it finally. And I know what you guys have been talking about all these years. So if it hasn't happened to you before, just wait, I think. And if it doesn't happen ever, that's okay too. The friend in our local tea community, Alex, he seems to be just fine not feeling too drunk, He doesn't seem to miss out. I don't think he's missing out either. Different people, different strokes, different folks. So 7th steep. Wow. This changed a lot between the 5th and 6th and 7th steeps, I think. Some of the fresh quality is coming out from the tea now. And by fresh, I mean the roast is kind of dying back and you're getting to the base kind of leafy thing going on. Wow. It's probably one of the most floral, fresh steeps I've had from this session so far. Which doesn't, in a way, it's kind of like, wouldn't you say the more you brew the tea, the more roasty it's going to be? But when you have a roasted tea, I find that as you go on through the infusions, the roast applied to a tea is on the outside. As you go through and it opens up, that roast is kind of like getting drunk and faded away, like it's getting infused. And you're opening more of the original tea's like base flavor. And that base flavor of tea, like the fundamental tea flavor, is, a little bit more flowery and fresh and leafy. So we're seeing that here now with this Dongding. Good stuff though. And still very sweet. And still roasty. Okay, infusion 8, I'd say. Infusion 8's taken us an hour to get to, an hour 10 minutes. Getting a lot of mileage from this tea, just in terms of like enjoyment. I find that the better the tea, the less of it you have to drink. Now, does this make me feel tea drunk? It's in my personal, like, how I would describe it, I would not call this tea drunk. When I hear tea drunk, from what I understand, okay, like there's so many different interpretations. I heard tea drunk over in Taiwan, and the term for tea drunk is cha zui, which is literally cha, tea, zui, drunk. Forgive me if my tones are not correct, okay? I like to fake my Mandarin ability. You kind of just have to do it to try to get through it. And when you say tea drunk in Taiwan, it's not seen as a good thing to tell someone that their tea is making you tea drunk. It's almost like it's a little bit too much, and Yeah, so I've tried to not use the word tea drunk for when I'm having a good experience with a tea. It seems to have a negative connotation in Taiwan and China. Um, Almost like, oh, you gotta eat something because that tea is upsetting your stomach or your system or something. And this tea is definitely not tea drunk in that sense. But in the Western tea world, I don't think we have a word to describe what tea feeling is. I like to use the word tea feels. Just what you feel, right? It doesn't have to be like you're tipsy. But yeah, this tea does give me a good feeling. I wouldn't say it makes me tea drunk, but it's making me feel more like peppy and talkative and relaxed and chill. So I would say, yeah, it might be what other people might call tea drunk for sure. Tyler's question, are we drinking Dongding today? Yeah, we sure have been. If you would like to join us to brew and practice, feel free. We're over on the eighth steep now of a Dongding from Floating Leaves. It's a charcoal roast. It's been really lovely to us so far. Um, yeah, I'm just using it as a way to kind of practice a couple small things, like remembering to put my lid on the gaiwan and, kind of digging into what's going on with the tea. It's been really good so far. I'm surprised by how friendly it's been. Not that I think that, it would have been mean to us, but almost every single steep, I'd say every single steep has been like on point. Even for a tea I don't brew very, very much. Steven's the one who brews Dongding all the time. Almost to my detriment, because if there's a Dongding, I'm like, Steven, you brew it, you know? Okay. Fusion number 8. And then we'll see where this tea takes us. Even if it takes us to like 5 o'clock, we got another 45 minutes. Even if it takes us to 5 o'clock, it just means the tea is just, it's got a lot of stamina, got a lot of generosity. Tyler, nice. I'm drinking traditional Dongding A from them. We do have that tea as well. Yeah, I really like that
On
tea.
the table.
It's on the table. I got a little bit excited and put out all my Dongding, but 2 hours for a really good Dongding is not enough. So I have it from them as well. Yeah, they got some good Dongding for sure. I can't think of anyone else who has better Baozong or Dongding than Floating Leaves, just this far. Even having gone to Dongding, it's very difficult to find Dongding that good in Taiwan. It's just hard.
They're kind of the chicken wing experts now too.
Like Anshi Tiguanyan, I mean, it's not their focus, right? I mean, they're just good at everything. Just on balance, the tea is just better. So even if they're not like they focus on Taiwan rather than China, the Chinese tea is good. Even if they focus on Dongding rather than High Mountain tea, their High Mountain tea is really good. So yeah. Infusion number 8. Pretty similar to Infusion 7 and Infusion 5 with that kind of tapioca note. Just very like sweet, super friendly, super easy drinking. Really good. Super warm. And it's still got so much in it, even if it's getting lighter in flavor now. It's still got the floral, fruity thing going on. So Infusion 9, my focus will now shift from like, no, actually, no, it's just still giving. I was about to say I need to shift my focus to try to get more flavor out of this tea now that the steeps are dying down. But they're just kind of like dialing down the volume a little bit. I'm not losing flavor from the tea. So I'm going to try to pull another steep like this because I'm really enjoying this stage of the infusion. Okay. Steven's chugging. Oh my goodness. And Tyler, if you're drinking the tea with us, let us know what infusion parameters you're using. Gaiwan teapot. I decided to go with the Gaiwan today because I just like a Gaiwan. We have a lot of nice pots, but I just go back to Gaiwan all the time. It's my comfort zone. I think I brew pretty well with a Gaiwan. if I do say so myself. But that's just to say I do better with the gaiwan than other like pieces of equipment. I'm just so used to it, you know. I feel like I could just brew it in my sleep with the gaiwan. Tyler, wow, the first steep of this one is great. That's good. Our first steep of this one is really good too. It's just been such good tea to us this entire time. And I like that with the gaiwan, you can cheat towards these later infusions to see how the color of the tea is doing. It's kind of getting lighter, but leave it in a little bit longer. And yeah, it's changing a lot these last couple steeps. I think the first maybe 4 were very full-bodied and like roasty. Once we hit infusion 5 to 8, it kind of like dialed down a little bit on the roast and got a little bit more sweet and fruity. And then just this last steep, it got flowery just from the tea opening up a little bit more past the roast. So good stuff. Interested to see where it takes us. Okay. All right. Fusion number 9. Ooh, there we go again. See this habit. I got this habit. I'm just looking at the leaves, guys. Don't worry. I'm gonna put the lid back on. Jesus. I think I'll do one more steep of this, and I'm guessing I'll want to turn the leaves over in the gaiwan to try to get some more mileage out of the leaves. I'll show you what I mean in a little bit. Let me read Tyler's parameters. 6 grams of tea in a gaiwan, 100 ml. First steep 20 seconds, second steep around 30. Really floral and sweet, and has a really strong menthol-like effect. Yeah, you're doing some pretty fast steeps, I think, compared to us, but we're using about the same amount of tea. So that means you'll get even more mileage from the tea. I find that the lighter you like your steeps, the more steeps you'll get from the tea. And again, I tend to like to chop my steeps pretty short so that I can kind of see how the tea progresses slowly and gradually. Some people, you know, prefer just a stronger steep. I think I've gone towards doing longer steeps the last couple of years, but still are on the side of going a little bit lighter. Does this tea have a menthol-like note? See, I can see what you mean by having a menthol note in Dongding, but that's the first time I've seen the tasting note menthol used for Dongding. And that's the thing about tasting notes is like, do you mean menthol the flavor, menthol the feeling, menthol like peppermint, menthol like chewing gum, menthol like aftertaste? Because when you say menthol, I'm like minty, which is not quite the same thing. When I see menthol there, I'm like wondering, is the cooling aftertaste that you're talking about there? I wish that English was more exact. And in China and Japan and Taiwan and India and the places that have a tea tasting and growing culture, they have these words that are meant to be used for that particular tasting note, which is very, you know, it makes it effective to talk about tea. Like in Taiwan, there's huaxiang, you know, flowery fragrance, or mixiang, which is honey fragrance. I'm like butchering the tones, I'm sure. But when someone says mixiang, you know what they're talking about. It's not honey over toast. It's not honey on waffles. It's not fresh honey. It's not raw honey. You don't gotta worry about what kind of honey they're talking about. It's that one tasting note that everyone knows is called mixiang. So in the West, when we talk about something like menthol or mineral or floral, you know, it's so difficult to figure out, sometimes communicate, express what we really mean by that. So, but it makes it fun. It means we just have to talk to each other more, I would say. So now Tyler's explaining the menthol aftertaste is what he's talking about. The cooling aftertaste in the back of my throat and in my chest. It's really pronounced, and I didn't notice it when I brewed this tea before in a teapot with longer steeps. So there you go. I've never seen menthol used to describe the cooling aftertaste, but is it just because I've never heard it, does it not mean it's valid? I think that's totally valid because when you said that, I'm like, maybe that's what he's talking about. Yeah, so that makes sense to me. And I wonder why it only came out of the gaiwan and not the pot. What kind of teapot have you used to brew it before? Yeah, because when it comes to aftertaste, I find the gaiwan is just the most consistent in getting it. A pot can dial up the aftertaste and flavor profile that's already there, but I feel like if you just want to get it out and make sure it's there, the gaiwan is just more consistent in doing that for me. And for this one, we only got the cooling aftertaste around steep 7. I noted that it wasn't there, which surprised me. We had more of like this palate-based, like in the mouth aftertaste. And yeah, in formal tea theory, the aftertaste in the mouth is different from the aftertaste or after sensation in like the throat rising up. They can be linked, but some teas have that more like cooling thing going on here, sweet and cool here, and then some teas have more of the fruity sweet thing going on here. Some teas have both. Some teas don't have it, or some teas have other things too. But in this case, we're only getting the kind of like fruity thing going on the palate first for the first 7 steeps, and only around steep 7, I think, did the cooling aftertaste start off. So that's the benefit of kind of following a tea through to the end. Slowly kind of like chopping it up into little steeps, kind of see where it turns a little bit. And I remember when I was like, wow, you can steep oolong twice? Amazing. And then now it's like, let's steep oolong 15 times to see what happens between steep 1 and steep 15. And now we're on steep 9. Okay, so this tea's a little bit light. Like I thought I would want to like kind of flip the leaves over. And this is something that I've just seen some people do to kind of extend the lifespan of the tea leaves. What's happening is that up until this point, we've been brewing with the water hitting just the top of the leaves this whole time. So the guys on top have been brewed a little bit more than the guys on the bottom, or they've been brewed differently. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the leaves out, kind of like rearrange them a bit, and then put them back in, if that makes sense. Let me dig through for a little stick to do that with. Over here. And then let us know what the next infusion is like for you, Tyler. We need a needle, Steven. Like pronto. What'd you think? I want one of those tea needles. Oh, we do have a tea needle. Oh my god. Okay. Wow. I'm excited. Yeah. So we got, well, I say we, but it's mostly Steven who got his fancy scoop from Mihai Tea Scoops from Sven, who is, I guess, I wonder if Sven is he from the Czech Republic?
Yep.
We can check. I wonder if I wonder how Sven and Steven are related as names, because it'd be funny if you're just
a couple letters.
I'm not talking about like etymologically related. Look how nice this tea needle is. It's like, I don't know how he made this effect happen actually, if it's a burnish in the wood or if he just used 2 different sides of the wood. I would like to know more about that kind of stuff. I need a little bit more space to do this. Why don't you, can I use your scoop? Might as well use a scoop. That's what it's asking for. Yeah. And how lovely the scoop is. It's even better in person. It smells really nice, but not too strong that it overwhelms the smell of the tea either. So what I'm doing here, I'm not done with my tea session yet. It's steep number 9 going to 10, and I'd like to get the tea to be a little bit more, to have a little bit more stamina. Like I want to pull more from the leaves. I don't think they're done yet, but the flavor is going a little bit low. So I want to kind of like flip the leaves over and rearrange them, because see the top leaves you can see are a little bit more open than the leaves on the bottom, which has been kind of like squished and like hanging out in the bottom, kind of. But like they're not the front line, you know? They're like the backup leaves. You can kind of see it visually on the scoop too. This is towards the top. See how opened up the leaves are? Then this is towards the bottom. See how like kind of like shriveled up the leaves still are. They still have a lot of room to like open up. You can see it opened up towards the middle. They're kind of like in the middle, and then on the bottom of the gaiwan, which I put last into the scoop, are a little bit more closed up. So instead of mixing them up, I'm just gonna put the stuff on the top, on the bottom, stuff in the middle can go back in the middle, and the stuff on the bottom is now gonna be our new top of the gaiwan. And I haven't tested this method yet a lot side by side. If it makes a difference, I would like to do that, like do an actual side by side. But you know, in theory, it just makes sense. When you cook, you want to stir your stir fry around so that the bottom doesn't burn a different way or get overcooked versus the top. All right. And then this tea scoop has this lovely effect of when you're done with it, you can either have it up with the pail side up, or kind of like you deactivate it, and it's less intrusive. Just really like that tea design aspect of it. Okay. So hopefully now that we have the leaves back up top that haven't opened as much, we can kind of pull a little bit more flavor out. We can test it. We'll see if it makes a difference. It's almost like the tea's like falling asleep a little bit on us. Like, I'm getting late, I'm getting tired. I've been working, so just rearranging it. Change of shift, you know, shake him up a little bit. Maybe we'll get the results. And then Tyler says he's brewed the Dongding traditional before in an Yixing pot that dampened the taste. So, yeah, maybe.
I tend to not like Dongding and Yixing.
Yeah, I was about to say, Yixing was like the gold standard for a long time in the tea industry. What's the gold standard? If you ask some people, you know, that was the really popular material of choice. And I'm sure that there's amazing Yixing pots out there, but I don't think it's the end all be all for tea. And a lot of people were getting into them not seeing that the tea was kind of getting muted by the pot, just because even within Yixing, there's red clay, yellow clay, purple clay. You know, within that category, each potter is going to have a different blend of clays. And so some clays are just naturally better from some teas. So yeah, I think it'd be better if we at least talked about the need to test something first. Because yeah, I remember a lot of us were just buying pots without really testing them out much, and that's partially why a lot of my Yixing pots have been asleep for so long. I just never found the right matches for them, didn't have the patience, which is why Gaiwan, you know. I don't have an Yixing pot that I like for Taiwanese oolong so far. That doesn't just behave like a Gaiwan. I have a Junie from the 1980s, which is supposed to be incredible for high mountain oolong. It honestly is, but it tastes like a gaiwan. So I'm like, it's an Yixing pot, and it tastes like it makes the tea taste like it does in a gaiwan. But I already have a gaiwan. I want that pot to do something else for me, because I feel like pots are like filters, like what filters we use for photos. You know, like, do you want to make it pop more? Do you want to make it softer? More dramatic, less dramatic. If my expensive Yixing pot is making the tea taste like a gaiwan, you know, it's good, but it's not new. It's not serving anything new in like my tea toolbox. You know, ooh, the color looked really really dark. I think we probably got some more flavor out of that whole kind of like rearrangement thing, because the color went really dark again. Infusion number 10 now. I should have decanted that sooner, I think. just to see what the effect was of mixing the leaves up. Wasn't paying attention. Just talking too much. It's okay. I'm just getting excited. Still a really chill tea. Tyler, you're saying tea is brewing so well, floral sweet, and with a cooling effect in your forehead, throat, and chest. For us, I'm getting, at least personally, like arms and stomach and kind of all over, like a warm shower. Yeah, it's everywhere, but especially in the stomach, which, is nice and helping me today, feeling kind of like a little fuzzy, got my allergies, Very soothing, relaxing tea for us. I'm not sure if I'd call it intense, but it's very friendly. Friendly in like a soothing kind of way. It's not like, hey guys, let's go party kind of friendly or, talkative kind of friendly. It's just, it's chill. I'd call our tea pretty chill. Steven, same sensations for you?
Yeah. Sinks pretty low. Feels heavy.
Sinks pretty low, yeah. It's more on the lower end of things. Like when you drink, it just go.
Yeah. Like
this tea came back to life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was still alive when we were brewing it, but doing the whole like switcheroni, that sensation, that really warm sensation came back. It's almost like the leaves down there were like, we're ready, Wow. Really, really, really wow. I kind of like that because, we were kind of getting really, really light on the flavor and feeling. By infusion 8 and 9, it was almost like tapering out. But now that we've kind of bounced back to it almost feels like infusions like 3 or 4, Stephen. Like we almost bounced back as far back as that. It's very intense in flavor. It's very warm. It's like I woke up again. Aftertaste is there. Cooling sensation is there. Wow. So when people are like, "Oh, the tea's done," I'm like, "No, it's got like 10 more infusions. I promise." Ooh, good stuff. Really, really good stuff. It's funny we have all this dumping out on the table, but really only finished one.
For 2 hours.
Yeah, which is good. I mean, that's a good thing. We picked a really potent one, so yeah, it's good to follow it along. I think we'll be pleasantly surprised by how much more we get from this tea just after that infusion right there. Let's see if we can push it to last all 2 hours. That's just such a good case for buying better quality tea. That tea is really cheap, and if you spend 2 hours brewing it across 2 people, 5 grams of leaf, negligible amount of water cost because the Tikiris water formula is so freaking cheap. Thanks. You're spending like less than $5 tops for 2 hours of really good drinking. So really good value. It's kind of recuperating for all the cost I spend on all the experiments in which, yes, we are using like 35 grams of tea at a time sometimes by doing the side-by-sides. After we signed off from yesterday's experiment, I had Stephen redo the experiment on his own with his own experimental setup to see if he would get the same results. And we found that we liked his boiled water better instead of, because when I did it, we liked when I only heated up to the right temperature. With Stephen, we liked it when he used the boiled and then cooled down water. But instead of saying, it's subjective which one you like better. We noticed that the water that you just brew and then, the water that you just heat to what you need tends to extract things better. Like there's higher extraction on that water.
The qualities between my experiment and your experiment were the same.
Right.
That like one was darker,
yes.
one was bubblier and foamier.
Right. So even if we liked different steeps or different approaches, like is subjective, right? What's actually happening? You could like or dislike hard water, but without, if you really look at it, is there a difference in the performance, whether you like it or not? And yes, it seemed like when you boil the water, it was extracting things less if you boiled the water and then let it cool down versus the water that you just heated to the right temperature. which seem to extract things more and also cause the green tea to become more green in color in the liquor. So 3 different experiments. The first 2 I did, the last one Stephen did. So that's quite a lot of, repetitions on that so far. There's something we gotta follow up on for sure. But do you see me freaking out about reboiling my water? Nah, not today. If I'm like trying to impress someone or something, maybe, but it's just Stephen and me. So if I gotta reboil the water, so be it. There's also the concept, I think, of adding new fresh water to the kettle whenever you want to reboil it. Should probably look into that, see if there's anything to that. Ooh, wow, that's one of the kind of warmest, toastiest steeps we've had in a bit. Flavor dialed back a little bit on the steep from 10 to 11. It's almost like it rallied a lot on infusion 10 and then went back to being a little bit more mellow this infusion 11. So 11 infusions has taken us an hour and 36 minutes. Nice long pace, a little bit over 10 minutes per infusion. Wow, that's a lot of mileage for sure. Especially since when we do the experiment days, we can blow through 50 grams of tea in 2 hours, For science, someone's got to do it. You're welcome, like I'm not rolling in dough, but that's why it's nice when we can do experiments like independently as well. Instead of me having to do it another 10 times, I can just ask if you had the same experience, and then you have the ability to experience it for yourself to see if you disagree or agree or think there's something that needs to be added or changed or qualified, Even with like this brewing of Dongding, it's like, yeah, I can kind of see what you mean by the menthol. It's definitely mentally right now. If you put that word in my mind, and now the cooling aftertaste is mentally. So this steep was pretty light. I wanted to go back a little bit. I want a little bit more flavor from it. I think it still has the capability to give us a little bit more flavor. So I'm going to leave infusion number 12 in a little bit longer than 11. And yes, it's good to like adjust for brewing, on the fly. But when you're actually sitting down and all you have is just the tea in front of you and what you're tasting in the cup, making a strong judgment call on what you want to do next is helpful to see if what you're doing is actually working. So let's say I'm like, hey, this infusion was light. I want to make it darker. I'm going to increase the infusion time. If it works out, that builds your confidence in knowing what to do the next time you're trying to pull a certain characteristic from the tea. If it doesn't work, that just means that there's something you can work on to see if you can get a different effect the next time. Try it again another time, see if it works then. Or maybe it can tell you that the tea is indeed kind of dialing back and it's time to, move on to another tea. The kind of focused, intentional, like, I intend this. Let's see if we can make it happen in the cup. I feel makes me feel really confident when I brew tea now, because I feel like, I'm not the greatest brewer in the world, but you can give me any tea and I can take a look at it, look at the leaves, give me a gaiwan, I'll probably be able to brew it pretty well, even until the very end. You just have those techniques built up, and you can't do that just by, here's a mug and pour some water. You can have to build a little bit of that technique and focus. And hey, it's, I've been using a gaiwan for, 9 years now? Still don't know the full capability of what is possible with gaiwan. Especially when I remember to get cups. Steven, you're messing me up. Now I'm like 5 seconds behind. 10 seconds now. It's ruined. It's ruined. Notice we're still not using a fairness pitcher for the session, and I think it's benefited the tea. We'll never know if using a pitcher would have made this particular session better, but I'm really enjoying the setup here. Just so happens this Sky One that I haven't used in a while is perfectly suited for these 2 cups. Like how nice is that? I don't even have to adjust how much quantity. I just use as much water as I would usually. It's working out. Okay. Steep number 12. Still there. Yeah. Still a lot of flavor, still a lot of vibrancy to it. So it's certainly starting to taper out, I think. Even with this longer steep, but wow, there's this kind of like salivation going on where there's not that much upfront flavor, but there's like a sensation on the palate that's still very much alive and like still kicking. So I wouldn't throw this tea away yet, for sure. I kind of like the sweet water taste you get at the end of a tea session, so that's partially why I like to do it. Up until the very end, really like push the tea leaves forward, try to get more from them. For one, I don't like to waste anything. I'm just like, hey, those chicken bones, let's boil them, or toss the extras and we'll use them later. So I don't like tossing out tea that we could otherwise use for something else. Sometimes it means we have mounds and mounds of tea that's waiting on us to drink in the tea room, like that sencha from yesterday, which we'll probably use to make ochazuke again later. And then some Jade Mountain, which we can brew that in a bowl. I'd like to brew that, but this one will definitely kind of ring out. Is there a better way to say that than ring out? We'll definitely work with it until the very end. How's that?
Enjoy it to its fullest extent.
But ringing out is just like flavor, get it. It's okay. So I'm going to do a really direct kind of like pour fast and strong onto it. I'm just like, give us a little bit more. See if it does well with that. Yeah, still really sweet and good. Whew. Really comfy so far. Just for reference, the water we're using is around 60 to 80 TDS. The TDS meters you have at home, that I have at home, aren't the most accurate in the world, so I like to give a range rather than the actual number. And even between like a big jug like that, like towards the top, ooh, I'm like super exposed. Towards the top, over here, I'll just do it from like a faraway distance. Towards the top, that water is going to. There we go. That water on top is going to be a little bit lighter with less minerals than what's on the bottom, because naturally minerals will sink to the bottom a little bit, and I don't want to shake it just for the sake of like a couple more, like a bit more consistency. I find that's pretty consistent, but towards the bottom you're going to get a lower TDS, I mean a higher TDS count. It's going to be harder. So yeah, it's just a range. It's pretty soft water. It's working really well for this oolong, for sure. Ooh, we got some color to come out of that. That's nice. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. Infusion number... Was that 13? Was that 12? 13? 12? 13? I feel like that was infusion number 12. Yeah. Infusion number 12. So this is infusion number 13 about to happen. Incredibly comfortable this entire time, by the way, this tea. A very steady, stable feeling, very steady, stable flavor, extremely reliable. Stephen, you know this tea a lot more than I do. Is this just pretty reflective of what it usually does for you?
I tend to not make it in a bad one, and I think I get less life out of it than what you're getting right now.
Really? Life in terms of what?
Well, I wouldn't say that because I would have stopped on a lower steep number and transferred it to a bowl.
That's interesting. I wonder if we can transfer it to a bowl at this point, or if it's just like, we're so tired.
That's not necessarily getting less life out of it. It's just,
Yeah. Does it taste different than what you're used to?
it's a good one.
So does it taste different?
Yeah.
Stephen, like, you're making me talk about tasting notes. Is it lighter or darker, or, you know, do you like it better in a pot, just subjectively?
I like it in that pot.
Okay, that's rude. You shouldn't answer that question. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. How is it different? Lighter, warmer, darker, better? It's just better. It's better.
The flavor is very clear through the Gaiwan. I think the energy is definitely out of the pot.
The feels. Okay. I'd like to make you talk about tea notes. Like I can be like la, 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 about Infusion 1. Steven's like, it's good. And that's good. It's good whichever type you are, whether a Steven or a Ree. It's both valid, you know. That's why it's nice to practice together, because you get kind of different opinions, different perspectives, and you save time and resources by having someone else relay what their experience was, because otherwise, to have known that, I would have had to brew in that pot already with this specific tea. And as we all know, we only have one life, so I can't experience everything you have experienced. You can't experience everything that I have experienced in the exact way either. So when we bring those together and trade notes, that's why so much so much learning happens when we're brewing together, you know, and sharing tea. It really is much more potent, I think, than like reading a blog post, even the Tea Curious blog. I mean, it's a good blog, right? But actually sharing tea and discussing, I think, really ups the ability to learn. Yeah, I think I got what I wanted out of that steep. I brewed it with a fast pour, so I'm gonna do it again because I want it to happen again. Fast, like intense pour like that to try to get more flavor out of it. We did get more flavor out of it. So actually Infusion 12 now, no, Infusion 13 now was more strong than Infusion 12, which is nice. Probably use one more kettle brew in here. Kettle boil. Boil, brew, kettle, pot, Gaiwan. It's so hard to keep track of all those words. Okie dokie. And this will be a fresh boil, so maybe it's better than like boiling it over and over again. I don't know yet. We test it out. Okay. You're chugging this tea, Steven.
It's good.
It is really good. We return to some of that more tapioca, like sweet flavor that I like a lot, in oolong. Just sweet, so warm. So if you're not paying attention to what the tea is making you feel like, you might have missed just how warm this tea is. And I did for a long time, like not knowing that there was another dimension of tea to think about, or even just observe. Like, not everyone will get like the tea energy or tea drunk or tea feels or whatever the hell we want to call it, chachi or yeah. But I certainly do, and I like it, and I didn't know about it for a long time. So all those teas that I had before, I learned about that stuff maybe a good like 3 years. I didn't know. So I wonder if I encountered some teas that are really, really exceptional, felt really good, but I didn't realize I didn't know what to look for. Tasty. I think one maybe downside of having that really strong pour is it brings out a tiny bit of like dryness. Not my favorite. So I wonder if there's another way to pull out more flavor without going so harsh. I suspect this infusion will be pretty drying too. It's not exceptionally drying. It's not too bad. Still okay. And to be fair, it is infusion number 14, so it's fair to observe some of the tea drying out a little bit. Nice color still, though. You wouldn't think that's like infusion number 14. Look at how much color there's still in the cup. It's dope. Yeah. I'm not removing the lid from the Gaiwan anymore. I'm getting used to it.
We're gonna have it.
Yeah. Or being more aware of what I'm doing. Because I don't know, maybe I still want to remove the lid, but right now I don't. And yeah, so far this tea session has been going really well. Probably do one more after this infusion here. Those of you who've been following along with us brewing Dongding or Taiwan Oolong or whatever the hell it is you've been brewing, thanks for joining us so far. Yeah, this is super, super enjoyable. As much as I like the experiments and figuring things out, with a lot of things going on, it's also nice to remember all that stuff is kind of boiling down into this setup here, pot, hot water, leaves, cup. And if all of our experiments, as detailed and nerdy as we can get with them, don't give us a good result in the cup, what's the point, If we have a test to see if all that learning we're doing with the side-by-sides and the TDS meter and the whatever is actually translating into something in the cup that we're happy with. And I am really happy with how this tea is turning out. The biggest adjustment I made in this tea session was the putting of the lid on, kind of trying to break that habit. Seems like didn't notice the tea steaming or becoming all like overcooked, which is what having the lid on, people say don't put the lid on because it overcooks the tea or whatever. It's no problem here. Especially for a dongding. People say that a lot for green tea. So you need to check if green tea, you need to leave the lid on. But so far, anything from green oolong down to pu'er seems to do better if you leave the lid on rather than off. Good stuff. So this is infusion number 14 coming up. I want to make it to 15. I'm going to be stubborn. I'm like, 15. 15 is a good number. It's still so sweet, so I'm just digging. Really digging. So this infusion, and then one more. You okay with that, Stephen?
More.
I wonder if it will come back to life if you put it in a bowl. So one thing you can do after a tea session like this, when the leaves are kind of like fading out a little bit, but you still want to have more of the tea, you could put it into a bowl and bowl brew it. It's going to be pretty light at this stage if we do that to this tea, but I'm just curious to see what would happen. It might be good. And just a little detail about the gaiwan. When I pour water into the gaiwan, I do like to lift the water above the lid, so you're having what's called a seal on the water. That's something I gotta test out because that's a habit I've done from the very beginning of my, from really early on. And what I mean is that the water, it's kind of hard to see on the screen, but the water is above where the lid is. So if the lid's over here, the water is here. So there's no air that can slip past down the lid into the leaves and kind of cool down the water. It's supposed to be sealing, creating a seal or vacuum seal of water and heat around the leaves. which is supposed to be better for the tea. Why? I don't know. Why do I do it? I think it was good in theory, and I never changed my approach. And now that I'm, learning a lot of things that are tiny adjustments that I could maybe make to make tiny gains, that's something we got to test eventually. So many things to learn about. It is really fun though. I mean, there's no shortage of things we can test out. I'm never going to be bored ever, 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 ever in my life. And you too, if you do tea. So congrats. You can only make better tea every single time. It's a nice feeling, I might have put the water up a little bit too high because that guy wants hot. Hot. Ooh, it's the first time I've hit the cup with the guy won this whole time. Which is not bad. Not to hit the cups with the guy won or pot. But this is a very, very hot infusion, just off the boil. So hopefully that means this tea is, still got some color. Goodness gracious, Then really quickly, I'm going to put some more water in there and burn my fingers some more. I think there's like some school of like tea thought that it's better if you just infuse the tea as fast as possible in between infusions. Like don't let the leaves dry out, which is interesting. I tend to be too slow of a drinker to like consistently pour water into the leaves so that they're always wet. But the same concept that you see in grandpa style brewing for like Dragonwell tea leaves, Verdant tea was the one that popularized this, I think, years and years ago. You take a tall glass cup, and you put the tea leaves in, you pour a little bit of water, smell the leaves, and then pour it up until it cools down. You drink from that, but whenever you feel the water, make sure don't drink the tea down to the point that there's no more liquid left, because you want to keep the leaves wet and primed for the next infusion. So, same kind of concept here. Is it better if you always have water on the leaves so that they don't dry out within the course of like a 2-hour session like this? It's been 2 hours now. And yeah, it's something to consider. That's really tasty. Holy crap. That's steep number 14. Wow, there's a flavor there that's new. It took us this long, 2 hours. Steven, there's a new flavor there. What is that? You taste that? It's almost like Steven's like, don't make me do tasting notes. But to me, it's almost like star anise. It's like really poppy, it's like spicy and herbaceous. And that's the first hint of that I've gotten from this tea. Wow, what the hell? That's like a bonus prize at the very end of the game. I don't know if it's because I used a fresh boil of water, I just bought something out that is a little bit different. I'm not sure. Holy crap. Infusion number 14. That's some, wow. Just when you think we're like stretching it out like dough, infusion number 14 is ball infusion. Man. Wow. What a joy. Like, surprise! Really good stew for you at the very end. Almost like a reward of patience. If you got this far, wow, what is that? It's like star anise, which is a little bit like, I'm gonna say the gross word, don't freak out, licorice, but better. It's like sweet and not so like funky as licorice. It's really sweet and the aftertaste is so good. Why did it come back to life like that? Not come back to life, it's been alive this whole time, but why did it just rally so hard on infusion 14? I don't know. That's crazy. And you could just leave it up to the universe, but I want to figure out what happened there that made this tea so friggin' delicious. What did I do? Was it just a really, really hot water, or did the tea just open up enough at this point? Did maybe the leaves on top finally get to the level of openness that the leaves in the bottom are, so they're all like working together? I don't know. For some people, it might seem a little ridiculous to like look so deep into the details like that. But we're tea people, you know, like if it's just leaves and water, the more you can adjust and know what's going on at the detailed level, the more, you know, improvements you can make that build up quite a lot. You know, I think it's really worth it. I mean, I'm happy with my tea brewing. Don't always get it right, but I trust myself, and it's a really freeing feeling when you know you can just work with a tea, even if it won't be perfect. You at least know what's going on, and by doing this, it's how you get comfortable, you know. Wow. And that's why I went up to 14, because this is not the first time I brewed a tea out this long, only to find something interesting in the end. It's maybe only happened once or twice in the last like 10 years, you know? It's not very usual, but I know it's possible. And certainly I know almost every time when I go to 15, even if it's not incredible, at the end, it's still really pleasant. So it's experience and not just some magical, like, Regis knows, you know? You're just building up your flavor library, your library of experiences with teas and techniques and stuff that makes it easy to make decisions like that, you know? So we'll end with infusion number 15. I want your cup. What a fruitful session. We gotta finish that though. Are you getting full?
Nope.
Really fruitful session. Wow. Okay. Color's still there. Oh my gosh. It's like this tea is like, you think I'm done yet? Wow. Wow, what is that? There's a thing again. It's just coming out now. Steven makes me not want to like end at 15. This tea, just from the scent of the lid, is gonna have that same flavor we saw in 14, I think. The color is still super dark. If you pour this for someone, they would not believe you that was 15, you know? Unless they like doing that. Just when I pour tea for people who are not used to doing reinfusions of a tea, they're like, wow, you can reinfuse 2 or 3 times? That's incredible. Now hold my beer, hold my kombucha, if that's what you like, you know? See what infusion 15 can be like. Okay. Wow, Steven, it's there again! What is that? It's like, it's almost like fermenty. Like fruity fermenty, like heicha or something, or like, you know, like aged white tea or something. It's a little bit like fruity and honey-like, and wow, what is that? Right? What is that? Goodness gracious. Yeah. I'm just like, I think we're gonna let this sit for a little bit after we sign off on this live. But that's incredible that the tea is outpacing our 2 hours of tea practice together. You know, what's the point of having all the dong ding extra on the table when this one tea is not even done yet after 2 hours? And do I get this level of generosity and interest and exploration when I bull brew? Or just not think about it too much? It's okay if you don't, but, you know, no, I only get this level of incredible, like, wow, holy crap, it's been a journey when you're willing to sit down and dedicate that time to that tea and see exactly what it's made of. We did that on Wednesday with the Korean sejak, the green tea. I learned a lot, you know, it didn't have the ability to go 15 steeps, but I learned a lot. And then now we spent another, you know, 2 hours focusing on another tea, and it gave a lot too in a different way. So just in the last 3 days, we've done 6 hours of focused, like really dialing down tea practice, you know, and caramely. Yeah. You don't usually tasting note, my friend.
What kind of caramel? Specific.
It is caramely. You're right. Dude, that's exciting. That's the first time it's been caramely since other than the very start. It was caramely in the very start, and then now Infusion 15 is caramely. That's insane. So yeah, we're gonna. I'm really enjoying this focus tea practice, and I don't want to say I'm happy that we're stuck at home, but I'm glad we have this opportunity to learn together and brew tea together in lots of different ways. I really appreciate you guys joining us for tea practice, for everything on Discord, on Instagram, here on YouTube, everything. Why I do it, again, it really helps me learn, and that's why I believe in it. And yeah, I've done so much learning in the last couple months with the Discord open and a couple years with the Instagram really active that's why I keep doing this the way we do, we learn better together, I think. And yeah, this teach is so rewarding. I hope that your own tea practices today have been really rewarding too, whether or not the tea was amazing or kind of difficult like ours was a couple days ago. Just take it as it is, it's improvement. You got your, in general upward slope, and that's 60 hours of practice we've done it together. So we've got 2 more days left in this week. Well, I end on Saturday, so we got 1 more day left in this week. Another 2 hours tomorrow, probably at 3 to 5 p.m. If any of you have any opinions about the timing of this live stream, tea practice, etc., let me know, because I can just change around my schedule. I just pick 3 to 5 because just pick an 8 and go with it. This has been an amazing 3 to 5 o'clock. We're going to keep working with this tea. And yeah, I hope you have a really nice evening and see you guys tomorrow. Cheers and cheers and cheers.
Bye.
Bye.